Hello, and welcome to this roundup of contemporary romance books that I've read from 2023. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot. You're watching Random Olive Reads. Now, usually I read a whole lot of historical romances, so it's sort of interesting that I picked up as many contemporaries as I did this year. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young is a standalone novel. This one is super funny and emotional. There's a one night stand and accidental pregnancy. Win and Bo meet at their friend's Halloween party. They flirt, they hook up, and they plan on never seeing each other again. 6 weeks later, Win finds out that she's pregnant and needs to rework her whole life plan. When she tells Bo the news, he is surprisingly emotional and supportive. They end up becoming friends with a co parenting plan, and eventually, Win moves into Bo's house. It is a slow burn romance as they get to know each other better, and Bo is basically the best, most supportive father ever. There's all sorts of humor as they banter with each other, and it's clear they're going to be strong partners throughout the book. This was an excellent, excellent read. Camera Chemistry by Chelsea Curto is book one of the Love Through a Lens series. This one's a quick, smutty novella. Maggie and Aiden meet as two strangers during a photo shoot and get to know each other in front of the camera. With their sizzling chemistry, they decide to extend their time together with dinner and an overnight stay at Aiden's place. We get front row seats to their entire steamy night together with a variety of sexual encounters all over Aiden's apartment. And if you cared about their backstories, Maggie is a divorced neurosurgeon and Aiden is a divorced pediatric oncologist with a 16-year-old daughter. And despite the fact that these two don't have time for relationships and only agreed to a single night together, they both want more and have been worried that the other person didn't. So they have to actually figure things out and talk to each other. Caught on Camera by Chelsea Curto is book two of the Love Through a Lens series. This one's actually a full-length novel. Lacey and Sean are friends through their friends, Maggie and Aiden, who got together in the previous book. And somehow they have not started dating each other. Lacey is on a date with a new guy at a football game where Sean is the head coach and ends up featured on the kiss cam. Her date adamantly refuses to kiss her, drawing embarrassing attention to Lacey. When Sean sees what's going on, he saves the day by running over to kiss Lacey. And then they end up all over social media and decide to fake date through the holidays so that Lacey has someone to bring to her work party, and so Sean can bring a girlfriend home to his family. And then they evolve into fake dating partners with benefits and slowly start to realize that they don't want an end to this relationship after all. Both Lacey and Sean are fiercely independent and strong on their own, but realize that it's nice to have someone to partner with and rely on. The romance is slow and sweet and charming, plus, explicit details of their bedroom and out of the bedroom physical relationship. This one was another great read. You Again by Kate Goldbeck has all of the When Harry Met Sally vibes, with Ari and Josh having horribly awkward run-ins with each other over the years. And then they become friends, and then they make things messy with all of their feelings. There are lots of time jumps in this book, so that it's labeled with practically 9 different parts, but it's very clear where we are in everyone's lives. Ari is a stand-up comedian with all sorts of aversion to commitment and thinks that Josh is an arrogant asshole who is weirdly romantic and believes in soulmates. He is actually a chef with big dreams and wants to distance himself away from his famous deli-owning father. We get to see the evolution of both Ari and Josh separately in both of their relationships and careers. When they finally meet again and strike up a reluctant friendship, they're both kind of at all-time lows, and miserable company is somehow comforting. They keep things totally platonic, but it's clear they have some emotional dependence on each other, complete with late-night telephone conversations while watching movies together, separately in their own apartments. And it all sort of blows up when Josh pushes for more and Ari freaks out. We get to see both points of view in the story, and there is humor mixed with heartbreak in all the best ways. I loved how small little details early in the story get remembered and called back to later on in the best sort of inside jokes between Ari and Josh. And we have a really supportive cast of family and friends. Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood is another one of her women in STEM stories. Elsie is a recent PhD grad with no money and way too many adjunct teaching positions who is on a fake dating app for extra money. One of her clients has an older brother, Jack, who seems to hate Elsie, except he doesn't. And one of the parameters of Elsie's gig has her being vague and untruthful about her real identity and personal information. When Elsie shows up for a physics faculty job interview, she is surprised to see Jack there as one of the other faculty members. Jack is upset because it seems like Elsie has been lying to his brother, but Elsie can't tell Jack the truth about the fake dating without her client's permission. It's a huge mess that is complicated by the fact that Jack is in charge of some rival branch of physics and there's another candidate for the job. But Jack really just feels terrible for having had a crush on his brother's girlfriend all this time, and he's even more impressed with her once he realizes that she's an intelligent physicist. This book has all of the humor and awkwardness that you would expect out of an Allie Hazelwood novel. Next, we have Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood, which is a young adult contemporary romance. Mallory hasn't played chess in years since it seemingly caused the implosion of her family. Now she's a high school graduate working to support her disabled mother and two younger sisters. Her best friend convinces her to join a charity chess tournament, and she somehow wins against Nolan, the reigning world champion and top ranked chess player. Mallory is understandably completely overwhelmed and runs away. Soon after that, Mallory is offered a well-paying fellowship to study and play chess with the hopes of entering upcoming chess competitions. While she tries to maintain some emotional distance from the sport, it all comes back to her even though she's hiding her chess involvement from her family. Once we start heading out into the world of chess tournaments, we get more awkward meetings with Nolan and meet some of his friends. And while a lot of the chess went over my head, the banter between Mallory and Nolan is so entertaining, as well as Nolan's interactions with Mallory's younger sisters. He's clearly impressed and intrigued by her, even though she totally denies it. The romance aspect here is sweet and fun, and we get to see these two open up to each other about their family secrets and traumatic histories. And ultimately, they find a way to have fun in spite of the competition. You with a View by Jessica Joyce is another standalone romance. Noelle is in a rough spot right now, living in her childhood bedroom without a job and grieving the loss of her beloved grandmother. When she comes upon some old photos and a love letter that of her grandmother with a stranger, she seeks to unravel the mystery of the missing man. One viral TikTok post later, she finds that the man is actually her high school rival's grandfather. Theo has been Noelle's academic and athletic foil all through high school and is the very picture of success, while Noelle has not accomplished anything she wanted to. When she meets with Theo and his grandfather, she uncovers a decades-old love story, including a mapped-out honeymoon road trip. With nothing else to do, Noelle decides to embark on the trip herself to feel closer to her lost grandmother. And of course, the two men invite themselves along on the trip. We get to see smushy family dynamics, hear about a love story that didn't work out, plus see Theo and Noelle slowly let down their walls with each other. The emotional connection and steam was so good to read in this book. Definitely recommend. Lunar Love by Lauren Kung Jessen is another standalone romance. Olivia is set to take over her family business, which is a matchmaking service in Los Angeles' Chinatown that is based on the principles of the Chinese zodiac. We start with a meet cute in a bakery and a scuffle over a pastry, but she never catches the man's name. Later, we find that Bakery Boy is actually Bennett, the owner of a new dating app that is also based on the zodiac. Olivia sets out to gather more intel, so she uses the app to make herself match with Bennett for a date. She is determined not to like him since he's a business rival and his zodiac animal is incompatible with hers. When everyone finds out who the other person is, they end up making a wager and setting each other up on dates to see which matchmaking service is superior. But of course, Olivia and Bennett spend more time talking to each other than talking to their intended dates. It's really sickeningly sweet. Olivia's got her own history of heartache, though, so she really believes that Bennett is incompatible, and she tends to think the worst in him. This book was adorable and sweet and smushy, and I really enjoyed it. Not Your Valentine is a bit of fake dating for you in a novella. Helen is a slightly grumpy, not so smiley young woman who is publicly dumped last Valentine's Day with a video of her breakup going viral. She has sworn off dating and relationships, but her friends and family are starting to worry by the time it's New Year's. She asks her guy friend Taylor to be her fake boyfriend to get everyone off of her case. However, she soon finds herself attracted to Taylor, but scared to make it real. This was a quick and fun read with things progressing in a predictable manner, but still super enjoyable and steamy. We've got nods to cultural foods and family traditions for our Chinese Canadian characters. We have running jokes about cheesy heart shaped cakes, and Taylor being the best sunshine fake boyfriend ever. Next, we have The Name Drop by Susan Lee, which is another young adult romance. Jessica is headed to New York City for a summer internship before she starts community college in the fall. Meanwhile, Elijah is headed to the same company for an executive internship as the CEO's son. Things go awry when both Jessica and Elijah have the same Korean name, and there's a bit of an identity mix up at the airport. Somehow, Jessica gets transported to a fancy brownstone and is introduced as the executive intern, while Elijah is crowded together with all the other lowly interns. When they discover the mix up, Jessica and Elijah agree to continue with their unintended roles for the summer. It was fun to see their friendship develop and each one learn to live and work under new circumstances, even though the romance was super slow to get started and fairly innocent overall. What kept me reading was waiting to see what would happen when their secret gets discovered and what kind of fallout we would see. Snow Place Like LA by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone is book 1.5 of the Christmas Notch series. Being in the same working circle in the adult film industry, Luca has had a crush on Angel for ages, and they finally hook up when working on the same movie set. After a month together, it seems that Angel has ghosted Luca, so Luca blocks Angel everywhere on all of the channels. Fast forward 7 months later, they're stuck working on yet another film together and need to confront their feelings and what all went wrong. This one is a quick and dirty novella with lots of steam. Um, we have a standout, hilarious page of the book for where Luca explains to Angel what the Omegaverse is. A Holly Jolly Ever After by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone is book 2 of the Christmas Notch series. We have ex-boy band member turned pizza mogul Callum set to star in a sexy Santa movie after gaining notoriety when a sex tape was leaked. Former child actor and all-around good girl Winnie is in a tough spot following her divorce and an illness that prevented her from starring in last year's Christmas movie. She's now given the opportunity to rebrand herself by co-starring with Callum. She is super hesitant at first, but finally decides to give it a try. Upon her first meeting with Callum and the movie's intimacy coordinator, Winnie soon realizes that she's totally in over her head and has no idea how to portray sexual satisfaction on screen, having never experienced it off screen. She has plenty of homework to do here, but her super conservative, purity based upbringing is creating a lot of mental blocks. Callum has his own insecurities of being the least sought after boy band member and always being looked at as a hookup rather than relationship material. He's very excited to work with Winnie after having had a crush on her since they were teenagers. With Winnie's insecurities in the bedroom, she asked Callum to help in that department, agreeing that it's research for her movie performance. There is definitely a lot of steam in this book as Callum takes on the role of tutor, and even though things are physically heating up between these two, neither one of them is sure about long-term compatibility, being total opposites in personality and family dynamics. It takes a bit of emotional growth for both of them in order to get it together. Forget Me Not by Julie Soto is a second chance romance told in two different timelines. This was a debut novel from one of my favorite fanfiction authors, known as Love's Bitka 8. And so we have Emma, a wedding planner who does not believe in commitment, and Elliot, a florist who took over his father's shop. The present day chapters are told from Emma's perspective, with past timeline chapters told from Elliot's. In the present timeline, Emma has booked a high profile wedding that could really elevate her career, but she has to work with Elliot on the florals, even though they haven't talked to each other in about 2 years. In the past timeline, we get to see how they meet and get together, and it's pretty funny reading Elliot's self deprecating awkwardness and internal monologue. In both timelines, we get to see Elliot's gruff but caring nature and that he's a total sap. This book had all the best emotionally written lines, and you can feel Emma's angst in the present day, even if you don't quite understand where it all went wrong. This Spells Love by Kate Robb is a standalone novel. Gemma has just been dumped by her longtime boyfriend, and she is drunkenly doing some sort of cleansing ritual with her aunt, sister, and best friend Dax. She wakes up in the next day in an alternate reality where she had never met her ex, but she had also never met her best friend Dax. In trying to get back to her own reality, she needs to redo the ritual at the appropriate moon phase, but will also need Dax's participation. Gemma sets off to befriend Dax in this universe, but realizes that they have romantic feelings for each other instead. It seems like she never quite got the chance to see Dax as anything but a friend since she so quickly fell into a relationship with that other guy. This book was funny and sweet and steamy. It was an easy, relatively low angst, friends to lovers read. It's a Date Again by Geneva Rose is a pretty quick standalone novel. Peyton has run away from a man who told her he loves her, realizes that she loves him back, and runs back to him, only to be hit by a car and then lose her memory. When she wakes up in the hospital, she is greeted by two of her best friends and three potential boyfriends, and she has no idea which man was the one she's in love with. Peyton spends the next 2 weeks dating these guys again, spending time with her friends, and relearning who she is. This book is a pretty quick and fluffy read, and I recommend picking this one up. Fancy Meeting You Here by Julie Tu is also a standalone novel, but it does take place in the same universe as other books by Julie Tu. Elise is all sorts of stressed running her floral studio, being a florist to her best friend's wedding, and also performing bridesmaids duties. After an awkward first run-in with one of her friends' younger brother, Ben, he hires her florist services for his mother's political campaign events. We spent a lot of time in this book surrounded by Elise's friend group and their respective partners, often throwing Ben into the mix as a frequent groomsman. It takes a while for Elise and Ben to start to get along, and then finally for romance to develop, but once they give in to their attraction, their relationship is sweet and supportive. Ben helps Elise break down some of her barriers and learn to ask for help, and eventually stop hiding her dire financial circumstances from her friends. And Elise supports Ben with pursuing his dreams away from the life prescribed from his parents. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found a book or two to add to your TBR. Links to all of these books are in the description box. Like and subscribe to get updates, and you can follow me on Instagram @randomolive.